Hi, Misha here, and I thought it would be a good time to kind of update some of the more popular black boxes. Of course, popular being a relative term on this channel, but this is just my late night musings, ramblings, usually sober. But one video that gets a lot of views and still gets comments on is the one I did towards the very beginning about K-Var and their so-called dishonest business practices. And I did do a follow-up a little over a year ago, so I thought we'd revisit it now, kind of talk about what they're up to, and just what I think about the gun market in general and Arsenal AKs. I don't know, just, ramblings as usual. So with that, K-Var has become more and more of a presence on Gunbroker, and lots of things get said, although not as many now. But let's talk about the new SAS M7 Classic that they just released that has the all gray finish. People kind of ask where that came from. The answer there is quite apparent. Remember there was that whole AK-20 that they showed off at SHOT Show 2020, and even then I said, yeah, if it even comes in to production, and it never did. Now you can say, well, COVID, and that's to some extent fair, but I always felt like that was them just trying to have something new to have at SHOT Show, and I can't blame them. Something to get people talking about them. But if you looked at the gun, the AK-20, you could tell they were kind of just using parts that they had on hand, including underfolding milled receivers, AK-47 barrels, the medium heavy profile, and they essentially just combined it with a new gas block and a few other little bibs and bobs. Well, apparently the subcontractor for that suppressor ready or whatever it was gas block didn't work out, so now they're doing this SAS M7 Classic in an all gray layout. And as of right now, it's a K-Var exclusive. They're not even releasing any to dealers through MSR, which is the distribution company. And yeah, I just think they're just trying to make something out of it to get a product out. Whatever. The AK-20 did not interest me at all. It was just a cobbled together thing. And the gray Classic, well, it interests me more, but not really. It's just them. They're trying to make do with what they've got. What's really kind of put the kibosh on the U.S. assembled guns, well, it's the fact that they can't get barrels anymore, or at least very, very difficult with the ban on barrels that dated all the way back to 2005. So, who knows. And of course, they did just have another batch of SAM 5s. Now, last year, they released a batch of SAM 5 61s, which were the first milled 5.56s to ever come in. Before all the 5.56s, the SA M-5s, those were all assembled here, although using Bulgarian parts, of course. And so, had the imports. This next batch, it's called SAM 5-62, and the only real difference is that the 61s came with a muzzle nut, removable, and the 62s come with the kind of iconic Arsenal 4-port muzzle brake, sometimes called the shark gill, also removable. And this seems to have been a larger batch because the 61s were, again, only sold through K-Var. With the 62s, they did sell some via MSR to dealers, although it was still a very limited number per dealer. think just a couple. So it doesn't seem like that many came in. Now, will they do some variations like a side folder or an under folder, or even better yet, a shorty with a combination front sight gas block? Frankly, who knows? But this year was already shaping up to be the year of the 5.56, the 223 AK, what with the M90 and the different versions of the Galil Ace, both the Rock and Lock Gen 1 and the Gen 2s, and of course the Baril and the Mini Baril. Yeah, so with the ammo sanctions, ammo bans from Russia, it makes 5.45 less attractive to a lot of people, meaning 5.56 is more attractive, because of the three major calibers you're going to find AKs in, it's the least affected. So who knows? Hopefully they will expand the line. And if you notice, Arsenal has really not done a lot in the stamped receiver lately. Most of their releases over the past year have been milled receiver guns, which I'm fine with. But I will reiterate, the SLR 104 is over. I'll never say 100% chance that they won't come in, but I will say 98%. There's always that hope. Now, of course, people will say, well, K-Var will post one on Gunbroker. This is true. But there's a big difference between K-Var posting, let's say, 5 or 6 on Gunbroker over a month or two, and Arsenal actually importing a fresh batch of several hundred or a couple of thousand. As I've said in the past videos, Arsenal, K-Var, they're just doing what they feel is best for business practice. There's kind of the long-running meme about them finding it in the back. Well, part of it is you keep guns set back for warranty repair, and once warranties are all expired, then you can sell those guns off. So that's a legitimate concern. Century Arms used to do that a lot. Another one is, in warehouses, things really do get kind of hidden. Boxes get stacked on top of them, they get stuck behind, inventory control gets goofed up, and you think this box is full of, say, SAM 7 FFs, and you open it up and it's full of SLR 106Fs. Things happen. Anyone who's been in a warehouse knows exactly what I'm talking about. But even if they do it intentionally, it's not bad business practice. In fact, it's quite smart. If you have, let's say, 1,000 guns, yeah, you're going to want to sell the first 500, 600 quickly, and then you might try to slow them down, do allocations, and then when you get down below 100 or even below 50, you're going to be pretty frugal with them. And if you can financially afford to just sit on them for a couple of years, we both know that the price will only go up. The Russian Sega SGLs are that way for me. When the Kalashnikov concern sanctions came down in 2014, K-Var wasn't doing the gunbroker thing, so they were just selling off their last SGLs. It was normal, and they marked up the price, of course, but I bought some and then sold them. But I held on to 3 or 4 for a while. Either it was really good trading fodder, or just, to wait and see, Christmas time type thing. And they paid off well. This is supply and demand. This is just the basics. It is what it is. I don't really find what they do particularly abnormal or scummy, but maybe I've just been in the firearms business too long, and I've dealt with companies like IO, Royal Tiger, Century Arms. I've dealt with some real winners, and so, K-Var there is just doing their thing. Now, the one thing I will agree, their customer service, their warranty repair sucks. if you get an arsenal gun and something's wrong with it, frankly, just be prepared to try to fix it yourself. That tends to be the less tears avenue, because sending it into them, waiting for them to fix it in maybe a couple of months, and then usually making you pay shipping, and then maybe or maybe not when it gets fixed. It's just not great. I've never sent a gun into them. It never was worth it, frankly. If I sent a gun into them, it would be so busted that it would have to be a return replacement or return refund. But that's just it. With AKs, I don't really mind messing with them myself. And every gun has warranty repair work. I've had one Fox that we had to work on. I've had several Century guns over the years, and I've had maybe 2 Arsenal guns that came in. One was missing the plunger and spring for the detent, for the muzzle device, so they just sent it over. And another one was just canted a bit. I think it was a 106 CR, but we just fixed it here. The gunsmith fixed it. It was honestly cheaper to pay him than it was to ship the gun back to Arsenal. And it, took 30 minutes instead of 3 weeks. But really, things have quietened down with Arsenal. They still pull some guns out. They're still selling the SAM 7K. They still have some SAM 7Rs and SAM 7 SFs. But the problem, especially with the SF, they've really raised the dealer cost. It's bumping $2,000 now, dealer cost. Now, since the COVID panic, the COOF is dying down. It will be interesting to see if Arsenal's prices die down. In fact, the same thing can be extended across the whole gun market, the whole gun thing. In the past, there has been a slump followed by a reduction in prices. We'll see if it happens this time. The only reason I'm not quite as sure is this time, while of course importers and distributors of their goods have taken advantage of the situation, there have been some legitimate cost increases. For one, the exchange rate has not been favorable for the US dollar. For another, the cost of labor in Europe, even Eastern Europe, has gone up. And third, the cost of freight, the cost of transport has gone up. More than a few freight companies suspended operations, some of them outright closing over COVID. So the ones that remain, hey, they can charge more, and so they will charge more. And with all the uncertainty of everything and the risk, they probably will continue to do so. So while I'm hoping and do expect prices to come down somewhat, I do not expect to see them come down to pre-2020 prices again. I think that ship has sailed. I think we'd be lucky if they come down, say, 10%. But, we'll see. It is good that the inventory is starting to flow again. I've had Colts, I've had more Markle Marsetmes, Century shipped a few things. Nothing crazy or major, but a few things. Of course, Estava USA has shipped quite a large number of their M90s, which is pretty interesting. And more stuff is coming in from Poland, from both FB and WBP. So we'll see. We'll see. And then, of course, that's not even talking about the used market. People overspent, at least some people did. And so that usually means there'll be some lightly used or barely even used or sometimes even unfired guns people will be looking to sell to pay credit cards. And one thing, and this is just kind of the cyclical nature, last year during the Corona panic, I was buying military surplus guns, not huge amounts, but here and there, and they were selling for shit last year. No one wanted those. Everyone wanted modern guns. But sure as anything, once people have enough black guns, MSRs or EBRs, whatever you want to call them, then they revert back to the old brown guns. This was definitely the case in 2009, after everyone kind of calmed down after that. And in late 2014, when everyone kind of chilled off finally from the Sandy Hook thing. And so what I've noticed is a lot of old guns are doing really well right now. Sold a couple of Minfields, sold a handful of Mausers, did really well on a Polish Mosin, an M44, WZ44. I think it brought like 1,100. Now, granted, those have always been kind of pricey, but last time I sold one, they were in the $750 to $8 range. And what else has moved? Yeah, Mosins. Yeah, I had a 9130 go for, I think it was about 580, 600. And yeah, and this is all starting stuff off at, for example, I started the Mosin off at $300 with the bayonet. Just let the market do its thing. But yeah, old guns seem to kind of be coming back into vogue for now. And done pretty well with Benelli shotguns, I think, because so few came in over the past year. People are happy to see Benellis. I had a batch of M4s come in, and they sit around for a minute without anyone buying them. But then in the last couple of weeks, I think I've sold 2/3 of them. So that's all right. The Swiss guns are finally kind of petering out, but that's to be expected. Part of it is we had the big batch of 600 guns come in May. And then, of course, JDI announced the 400 5.51s. There's 348 standards and then 50 of the special editions. And then, of course, there's 10 5.53 SBs and then 10 PE90s, something like that. So 420 coming in. So that's, about 1,000 guns over a year. Now, that might seem like a lot, and financially it's a lot of money, but keep in mind that Zastava USA imported about twice that in their first batch of M90s. So it's all relative, guys. But, the Swiss guns are still selling. I sold 2 today, but, the fervor is slowing down a bit, and that's okay, because, as I said at the beginning, our goal was to make enough off of those to kind of pay off our mortgage, and we are agonizingly close to achieving that goal, so hopefully here quite soon. So, as long as that happens, that's all right. I will be satisfied with the end result. So I'm okay. I'm even actually relieved that the market is kind of slowing down finally, because the Mad Hatter pace just couldn't continue forever. And as far as K-Var, they're just doing K-Var stuff. They haven't really done anything egregious. And a lot of their auctions, they start off at a penny and whatnot. The one thing I'll say is, and I've said this for a long time, these people that were willing to pay $3,000, $3,500 for an SLR 104 FR, everyone who asked me, I counseled against it. I said, look, it was a great gun for $1,000. A little more than that, sure, $1,500, $2,000, maybe if you really wanted one. More than that, I just couldn't imagine anyone being super happy with it. It still has Arsenal's patented crappy paint finish and, just stamped receiver. But now with the news on 5.45 ammo importation from Russia, I've noticed that the one area that's really come down is the 5.45 guns. No, not dramatically. You're not going to run out and grab a Sega for $1,000, but it seems to have kind of put a halt to a market that was just racing at a pace. Your Segas, your Vepers, your SLRs especially, were just really ramping up and up in price, and it was getting kind of comical. but also kind of sad. So this has at least brought people back down to reality. Now, I am not selling any of my 5.45 guns. Why would I? This isn't the first time that I've gone through a potential 5.45 ammo drought, and I really don't worry about it. The worst thing that's going to happen, in my opinion, is that the ammo is going to go up in price. How much? Who knows? But we'll still be able to get it. Just might not be able to blast 500 rounds in a day like we did with that Palmetto State PSA 74. That's one company I bet that's probably secretly happy, because, when we put out the review of the PSA 74 and had some problems in March, it was kind of a thing. But more and more people have had more and more problems as they actually were able to put cartridges through their guns. And I'm not saying every one that PSA put out had issues, but it seemed to be a higher than average, higher than expected percentage of lemons. This ammo thing potentially would give the company the really good excuse of just quietly discontinuing the line. The line has been problematic for them. Their other lines are still selling well. They have to be wondering why do it at this point. And that's my opinion. And again, I don't think that Arsenal K-Var is going to bring over a fresh batch of 5.45 guns, especially now with the whole thing. That's not saying they might not find some in the back again, 4 or 5 here or there. And of course, they still have some Vepers in 5.45, I'm sure, because they knew the sanctions were coming in June of 2017. So they imported as many as they absolutely could, not being idiots. I mean, that's exactly what you and I both would do in their position. So I'm sure we'll see some of the RPK 74s still. But yeah. The Romanian guns have kind of gone up finally in price. I think that's no longer a hidden secret. For a long time, you could get one for under $1,000 easily. But now it seems like people have realized that the SAR-2s and even the Wasser-2s are pretty darn good guns. So, why not? Yeah, it's just, the market is what it is. I'm not getting too excited about things. I'm not selling any guns, and while I'm still going to shoot, I'm just going to be a little more mindful of ammo. Instead of shooting 200 rounds through this gun, I'll knock it down to 100 or 150. Just, being conservative in that sense. And if you do that, if you kind of monitor what you're doing, well, it'll last plenty of long enough time. And keep in mind that there are still open import permits. Any permits that were already open, any forms that are already approved, they're going to be allowed to run to their conclusion. And that gives time for other companies to come in and fill in the gap. PPU, Aguila, various factories in Romania perhaps, especially for 5.45. Who knows? There's no reason to be pessimistic. If there's a market, if there's money to be made, someone's going to step in and do it. But, who knows? One thing is, I don't really know of any guns coming out, new guns. I know some guns that haven't been available for a while that are coming back around. But as far as absolutely new stuff coming out, I think the market just needs time to recover. There hasn't really been enough time for R&D and what have you to really think about new stuff. Just trying to keep up with existing stuff has been more than enough of a chore for everyone. Yeah, just a quick little update. Just chilling with you doing a Blackbox. But, I'll let you know when there's neat stuff. But I've been kind of digging old guns. That's what I've been picking up for the last year, really, because prices have been good. On the main channel, you can see some of the ones, like that Sauer 38H. Always wanted to get one of those. Picked up a really cool infield number 5 jungle that I'd like to hang on to. So we'll see. What have you been getting into? Any kind of interesting collecting habits? Anything like that? Well, let's talk about it in the comments. And hopefully it's starting to cool off for everyone. At least here it's potentially getting cooler, but then they say it might get warmer again. Who knows? But we'll hopefully have some fall weather soon, which is good shooting weather and camping and hiking weather too. So with that, appreciate you hanging out with me and listening to me pointlessly rambled for a bit again. This is Misha, and I'll catch you very soon next time.